If we set our compass true, strong of voice, robust in laughter, optimistic in outlook, Senator Kennedy, unfailing in his support for health care, strident in his insistence that a great commander-in-chief never commits American troops to a mistake. And, Chris, I think there were a few brief moments of haltingness in the delivery, but if you had simply heard that speech, you would have never known anything was slowing this man down, and perhaps nothing can.
Well, we have seen a Kennedy grow old. That's tonight's story, I think. And I looked at those pictures in the video of his young brothers. You know, at the risk of being criticized again for expressing sentiment about my country and its ideals, I feel something when somebody talks about unity among races and different orientations. And he talked about that. But there was also the personal, again, to see the young brothers together. And you realize that they all died in the line of country, in the line of duty. Joe, the older, is killed by the Nazis. Jack killed by a communist. Bobby by a Mideast terrorist. All died in the line of duty. And there's the youngest brother. I remember Jack Kennedy, when he was asked to pick in the early 50s the 5 greatest senators of all time, could only look backward. If he'd been able to look forward, he would have picked his younger brother as well. And, of course, it's too early to render that judgment. I like the fact he said he'd be back here in January casting a vote, because it is a very challenging health threat he faces from a brain tumor. And yet he rose to this occasion.
And we were told that speech from Senator Kennedy would be 4 minutes long. I don't think he slowed it down. I think that was a cautionary estimate. And what he performed, how he gave of himself again. Senator Schumer said earlier in discussing the future for Senator Clinton in the Senate that sometimes defeat brings greatness, that sometimes the pivotal moment of a life is not a triumph, but how you are redirected by not attaining something you sought. And we're now 28 years since Senator Kennedy did not wrest the Democratic nomination for president away from Jimmy Carter, and that has made an extraordinary difference, obviously, for him, what he could contribute to this country and to this country itself. We had this debate when the news first came about, this rhetorical debate, not an argument. But whether who has contributed, who made the biggest impact, and could a President Ted Kennedy have had as much of an impact on this country as Senator Ted Kennedy did for the 45 years in the Senate?
Great question. A couple of years ago, a senator, I think it was from Tennessee, was thinking of running for the Senate, and he wondered if it was worth the effort to get into that body. Would there be anybody in the body he wanted to speak in front of? And a fellow Republican who was a senator came up to him and said, you know who's worth being in the room with? You know who you'd like there to listen to you when you speak? Ironically, Ted Kennedy. He's the face of history, the man who has a sense of what that body's been able to do or not do for all these years since he went in there in '63. You know, you talk to people like Orrin Hatch, they love the guy. And it's hard to believe because, as somebody pointed out, was it David Gregory? Somebody pointed out, Tom Brokaw, and a half hour ago, said he used to be the poster boy. You put him on the fundraising letter, like Bella Abzug from New York. You wanted to raise money on the right, put Ted Kennedy's name on the fundraising letter. They're not going to do that anymore. Because I think perhaps to use a phrase from Rachel, it's post-politics in this case.
Right. His party is U.S. Senator. That's his party. I think that